What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Engineers Live Q&A. What's up, community? It's me, Maheret, your community manager. I'm excited to see you guys again. We're thrilled to bring you another live Q&A. Last week was great. We had Nicholas Day Parcell from Million Dollar Snare. He dropped some gems. And this week, I have another one for you guys. I think you're going to really enjoy it. We have the infamous Mixed by Jocelin, all the way from the UK. Today, we're going to be talking about everything related to marketing, branding, the importance of building relationships. I know engineering is a lot about technical stuff, but there's like a whole other element around just building relationships and how important that is for your career, how important that is for you in this industry. And so, who else, none other than Jocelyn, who has built an amazing network. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, Mixed by Jocelyn. What's up, Jocelyn?
What's up? What's up, guys? How you doing? Thanks
Good,
for
good,
having me
good.
on.
Of course,
Shout
of
out to Steph
course.
as well. What a G.
What's up, Jocelyn? Tell the people, tell the people about yourself a little bit.
So I am a mixed and master engineer hybrid, based in the UK. But obviously I spend quite a lot of time on the internet as well nowadays. So hopefully, expanding that from a global perspective. But yeah, I'm an independent. I don't work for a studio or anything like that. I work for myself. I've been doing it for about ooh, over a decade now, which is kind of a scary thing to say. But yeah, live and breathe it, and I love it, and I love doing things like this. This is my bag totally. So yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
having me on, and yeah, looking forward to getting stuck in.
Of course, man. One of the biggest things I thought that was really cool about your story is like about your early career. And
Mm.
I really want to talk about like tell us about your early career as far as when you discovered like okay, engineering might be my thing. Take me all the way back to 16-year-old Jocelyn.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really starts at school. I wasn't by any means an academic kid. I suffer from dyslexia and other things, and school was quite a difficult place for me. And because of that, I was, quite, I'd say, rebellious, not a bit of a naughty kid at school. And so they would actually, to get me off the playground, they would let me hang out in the music rooms in school with the guitar teacher and guys like that. And that was actually my first introduction because I played guitar, so they would let me just chill there. And they were like, he's better there than on the playground, causing trouble. So um, I would, I'd be playing around, and I would write my own songs. And then, yeah, my guitar teacher at the time showed me Cubase, and opened up this whole world of like, oh, I can actually record myself, and I can do it like now. I don't need like a big major label and a big studio to do it. So I started, it was more singy songwriter stuff back in the day, like wanting to be my own artist. And yeah, but I got so obsessed with the art of recording and trying to make myself sound the best that I could. And it was actually led on at that point. This is, I'm 15, 16 at the time. I'd never even read a book cover to cover. I was so dyslexic. I couldn't spell, read, or anything. Like nothing stuck.
Wow.
Um, but because of that obsession, I learned how to read because I was so passionate about it. I started buying sound on sound and things like that, and I actually managed to build, teach myself, like educate myself for the first time, where all these teachers had, for no fault of their own, but failed to teach me. So like it really started to open my eyes to like, okay, I'm not just this sort of like stupid, you know, uneducated kid that is not got really much of a future because of whatever. But I can, I'm good at this, and I can really get good at it, if you see what I'm saying. So that was like the start of the spark for me. And my brother installed, my older brother, he was a DJ at the time, so he sort of like really encouraged me. He was big in the dubstep scene, which is really big. It was sort of like birthed in Bristol and Croydon, where I grew up around Croydon. So it was like a massive thing there at that time. And so he really encouraged it and was like, he was saying, don't do the Ed Sheeran singing songwriter thing, what Ed Sheeran was about at that time, but like he was like, make dubstep or whatever. But so he installed Fruity Loops onto our computer at home. And so again, it's just like the addiction of learning it, spiraled, and it became like an obsession of mine. Um, and but at that point, I didn't really know that that was going to be my career. I didn't. I just knew that I needed to do something within it. Um, so I, my parents being, they were very dedicated to education. When I was going to leave school, they wanted me to go to sixth form, uh, which is like I don't know. I don't know. In America, you guys don't have sixth form. It's like from like 16 to 18, you
Mm,
can sort of like specialize and do whatever, and you can change schools or you can go to college.
like an early
Um,
college.
yeah, yeah, or you could drop out,
Okay.
right? And my at the time, I was sort of more leaning towards the fact of like maybe just trying to go and work in a studio and just leave, but they weren't having it at all and wanted me to go to sixth form. But my dad messed up and he basically forgot to sign the forms that allowed me to go to this school. So I turned up on the first day and
Nice.
they had no idea who I was. But this is an important part because it sort of like set a precedent in my head because I was very upset at that and I was like, right, okay, I'm sort of screwed here. Like I'm not, I don't, I haven't got anything to do. All my friends are still at school and I'm just like a bum basically. Um, so at that point, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and take my own destiny into my own hands. And I went past this college called Carshot College, and I shout Carshot College out every time. And it's where I met one of my first real, um, you know, uh, inspirations and people that really took me in, and understood me. Was a
And
man
at
called
this
Jay
point,
Rouse.
at this
I'm
point,
like
did you know that it
16,
was a
17.
career?
No, I just knew that I loved that. And that was what I could learn. That was the only
Okay.
thing that I was learning and it was sticking, right?
Okay.
So I went past this college and I saw they did a music tech course and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go in there now and sign up for next year and just to get over and done with. And then my dad can't say anything because I'm already signed up, so it's done. You lost your opportunity in the path that you wanted me to go to. So but anyway, they met me, and at the time, I had this song recorded that I recorded myself, and the NME picked it up, and I was like top 10 under 18s artist to watch or something like that. So I showed him this article and the video is like, okay, this is like what I like because I didn't really have any GCSEs to get me in. Um, they were so impressed and they liked me and the audacity of me just going in there and asking, they said just go up and start now and we'll figure out the paperwork and everything else later. And that was really the moment that sort of like solidified it for me. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do because I just fell in love with it every day. I was in a music studio. They had given me this opportunity. They'd seen something in me that maybe other people hadn't seen at that point and I just like went head first into it. So yeah, it was very cool, and that's sort of like what got me into music tech. Long story, but
No, it's a
yeah,
great
it was a
story. I
pro.
think
Yeah,
it's
it was
cool.
a process for me. Yeah, but
It's just
and then that was education for me. Basically, I got into the education for a few years then.
it's interesting because your family really wanted you to take that 9 to 5 sets,
Mm.
safe route, and you still went with, this is what I want to do. So now, okay, you figured out this is what I want to do. Tell me, like, who was the first person you feel like really just pushed you? Who's the first artist that you felt like, okay, I can do
Yeah.
this?
So, um, I mean, before I got there, whilst I was at, sort of at Carshot College, and it was never enough for me just to do the course, right? I was like, I'm gonna finish this course and then I don't know what to do. So I'd already started to sort of like pursue other things, and I was working freelance at this music tech shop that basically sells equipment. I was working for free, not freelance. I wasn't getting paid. I just would do it in my spare time outside of college, and they got a job from Relentless Energy Drink, who's a monster. It's like Monster in the US, and to set up a studio and basically record people for free, right? Like big artists as like a promotional thing for them. Anyway, long story short, I fucking saw that as an opportunity to get in there, and I went for it and said like, oh, let me go down there, test out the equipment for you. And then the girl Jill, who was sort of like running the shop at the time, said, are you an engineer? And at this time I am still at college. I've never done any professional engineering work ever. um not even like studied with an engineer, not done any work experience or anything. I just did the college thing, and I just lied and I said, yeah, I'm an engineer. I charge £100 a day. And she was like, okay, great. Let me get your number and I'll call you. Right. So then I'm like, all right, sweet. Didn't think anything of it. Um, and I got a call maybe 2 weeks later saying, can we book you for 2 weeks straight? Like 14 days straight recording session. And I was like, oh my God, yes, here we go. Like, didn't even care about the money or anything like that. I was like, this is amazing. I'm gonna have to tell my college, the college, that I need 2 weeks off or whatever because I got to do this job. Um, and yeah, they so I booked in, and then the night before I was like, oh, let me just call up start time, and I said, who am I going to be working with? And to the American audience, it might not mean much, but in the UK, it was a very big deal. I was recording Get, who is a huge, huge rapper in the UK, like massive deal. And I absolutely shit myself. Like the anxiety hit. I was like, dude, this is too much. I can't. I'm well over my head here. And I almost didn't turn up to the session because I was nervous. Um, because I'd essentially, just lied my way into it, right? Um, but for whatever reason, I managed to get up there and get to the session, and I got through the first day. I think they sort of knew
Yeah.
that I didn't really know what I was doing, but like, um, I would take anything that I wasn't too sure on that they would ask me to do, and I would sort of like blag my way through it. I would that night on YouTube, just learning that part because I had basic skill because obviously I've been doing it at college at this point a bit. Like I could press R on the keyboard and record, but like,
Right.
they're asking me, oh, can you make my vocal sound a bit brighter? My knowledge wasn't quite at that point yet. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know like, oh, let's bring 10K up or whatever on the EQ. So I'm studying, and yeah. Anyway, I got through the 2 weeks with a few blips, but overall, Gets and the rest of the guys, because I recorded all of the grime scene in basically 2 weeks. Like everyone came through the door, like Stormzy, Dave, like everyone. Like those guys weren't anywhere near as big as they are now, but they were there coming in. Was working with them, Kano, like because Gets is so well connected. Um, I managed to make an impact, and yeah, long story short, from being this, guy that sort of like bullshitted my way into it, within 6 months I was managing the entire studio.
So
So,
that's
and I
a
hadn't even graduated college yet.
that's huge. So tell me, like,
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, I'm sure, is on 1,000 right now, right? And
Mm.
for someone who is, I mean, and you have the education behind it. So, like, it almost is like as if that didn't even matter when you're in the field. All the things and technical things you learned is not what kept that job. It's you as a person,
Yeah.
your relationship with those people, the energy you had in that room. Because I'm sure they figured out, like you said, hey, he really doesn't know what he's doing. But for some reason, they let
No,
you
no,
stay.
definitely not. Like, definitely not. Like,
Right?
get at one point, I gain staged his vocal wrong or something like that, and it was like way too hot. I distorted it, and he came out, and he's not the kind of person you take lightly. Like, this guy's a serious guy, right?
Mhm.
And he was going nuts at me, and but like I can't quite remember what I said at the time, but because of how I dealt with that situation, I was allowed to stay in the chair, right? Not 99% of other people would have been them gone. Yeah, like he's not coming back tomorrow, sort of thing. Yeah, get someone
Right.
else in. But you know, in whatever way, I clearly obviously made him feel bad for talking to me like this, because the next day he came in with like a slice of cake and was like, "Oh yeah, sorry about yesterday," which is like
Nice.
unheard of, right?
Right.
Like a rapper apologizing to an engineer is mental. Um, but so anyway, the career sort of, went on from that point. But I've, oh, you were talking about yeah, the personality. At that point, it was like, yeah, okay, I'm starting to understand my skill set here. Like, I'm good at engineering and I love it, and I know that I can get good at it, right? That's the important. Like, I'm maybe not a prodigy at this point, but I can get good at this, right? But the one thing that I am good at is communicating with people, making people feel at ease, and creating a situation for myself and everyone around that works for people, right?
That's amazing. And
So,
now looking
yeah.
back as
Mm.
someone who's built all these clientele, you have an extensive network, your career, to some might look at it and say like you've made it. How do
Mm.
you feel like that skill set outside of just, yes, I'm good at engineering, that part I got down. How did you develop as a person and realize, oh, it's important for me to also develop as a human and maintain these relationships? Like, what did you learn about the industry in itself and how important that was?
That's a good question, really. I think, you know, the music industry is quite unique in the fact that it's so personable, right? Like, and that boils down to, and this is what I always tell people, is that you can never forget that you're dealing with people's art, right? So, and it's their passion and their love. And as an engineer, I always relate myself to being like a pane of glass. Like, the artist can't get through me to get their product, but I need to be transparent enough that they can see the vision through. I can see the vision as well, right? So like, it's an inevitable thing. I have to be here to get the song done, but I have to be as understanding and as transparent enough to understand their vision to get the record to where it needs to be. And
Love that.
getting getting that sort of round my head made it almost the most important thing in the studio, right? For me, and across all elements of my life, is that the communication side of things and getting to know someone and not like judging a book by its first cover is so important, right? Because you get, there's going to be situations like, guy comes into the studio, he's not your vibe, yeah, you can get that straight away, but that's not your job, right? Your job is to find a way, find something to connect with that person with, to make them feel comfortable enough to express themselves, right? In the studio, that's the most important thing, right? And then that skill set, taking that outside, is only going to benefit you throughout your career. Just shit I'm saying. So like, being able to find a connection with someone, and it's a genuine thing. It's not a fake thing, right? It's just being open enough as a person to be able to find that. A lot of people are kind of closed off, and they're too afraid to open up to a point where they can find a connection with someone, um, to build a relationship with them. Just shit I'm saying. So, and when you do that, and when I did that, and I started to understand that, that's when all these doors just started to open up for me. Like, it was like suddenly I've just jumped onto the fast lane, and
Really?
like everything is like, yeah, it's like everything is like happening, uh, quicker than what I expected, way faster than what I expected, just because I would find a connection with people and they maybe felt like they could trust me. And that was what I wanted. That's the main thing. Like, whenever I talk to people about like my brand, and I talk to some of my students or whatever, I'll always say like, my main thing about my brand is integrity. And that's what I want to make sure that comes across, is integrity above everything else. Not, oh, he's got this many records, he's got awards. None of that is important over under the fact that, it's the integrity side of things. I want people to be
Right.
able to go and see me online and feel like they know me,
Right.
and they do know me because I'm real, right?
Right.
And build that relationship, because and that's what I think has been my greatest what's the word I'm looking for, asset.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you prioritize the human element of it, it always,
Mm.
it comes back tenfold because the end of the day, it's human to human connection, and then it's art. So, like you said, it's a sensitive thing when you're dealing with people's art, but if you connect with them on a human element, it makes that process a little bit more seamless. So, I can definitely see that. But now in your career, once you discover that, okay, developing relationships is so important and things are taking off for you, you're making these connections. Tell me, at what point did you feel like, okay, I feel confident enough to start charging for my mixes and start, maybe raising my
Mm,
prices a little bit? I know you dealt with imposter syndrome for the
yeah,
majority of your
yeah, of course.
career. So tell me at what point where you're like, okay, you know
I
what?
still do
It never
sometimes.
ends.
No, 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 I don't think so. But well, if you're constantly pushing, and trying to reach new heights, you should always feel slightly like out of your depth. But that's another thing. Though, I mean, with the charging, so I mean, yeah, I was working in the studio and I was like a recording engineer, um, for 4 or 5 years or so, and then managing it. And I realized very quickly that I didn't like managing it. I liked being in the studio, so I sort of took a what do you call it? Not a promotion,
Demotion.
what's- no, yeah, demotion or whatever. Um, but yeah, so it was when I met two people in my career, quite big influences in the UK scene. I met Charlie Sloth um, and Jamal Edwards, who were both sort of they took me under their wing and helped me sort of like build a career. So one of the main things they were like, look, like Relentless is cool, but they're not letting you expand, right? Because I had this opportunity with ASAP Rocky come over to the UK, and I was working with one of his producers, and at the time, and he really liked me and wanted me to work in the studio with him and ASAP, and he was like, the only thing is that ASAP only works out of Red Bull, and so I've gone to my boss at the time, like, can I do this job? And they were like, no, like that's a conflict of interest. You can't do it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I've never experienced this before. This is kind of crazy. Like I'm being told no. I've got bills to pay. I can't just like tell them to like F off. So it made me feel very uncomfortable and a little bit trapped. And I lost that opportunity, I look back and I'm like, I wish I just told him to F off. This is one of the very few situations in my life where I didn't go with my gut, right? And
Right.
I cared more about the safeness of my situation than the opportunity, right?
Right.
And I'm not telling anyone to keep rolling the dice because if you keep rolling the dice, eventually you will lose. But you should roll it every now and again, yeah. So especially if it feels right. Um, but anyway, I left that opportunity and it definitely didn't sit right with me, and I believe the universe punished me for it as well. Like, it was like I should have done that, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so then these guys then came along shortly after and started working in the studio. And they wanted me to do other projects for them outside of Relentless, and I was like, I can't do it. Like these guys, I'm contracted. I'm not even allowed to own my own studio. So and but between those two, they were like, dude, just tell them to like F off and just start your own thing. Like you'll benefit from it because they made it very clear to me that the reason why people were coming and using their studio wasn't because of their studio, it was because of me. And I hadn't
Mm,
ever really thought of it like that before. Like I'm like I felt privileged that I get to work out of that space and do my thing, but in reality it was the space that was benefiting from me, right?
right.
And that was the reason why people wanted to come and work there was because of they got to work with me.
Right.
So and they made that clear to me. So that's when I took the big jump and I said, okay, right, I'm gonna do it. And Charlie Sloth basically said, I'm building my own studio, and I'll give you, I'll give you the first 2 months. I've got work for you, but take
Wow.
this jump. So I was like, because he wanted me to build the studio basically.
Right.
So I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna do it. And I took the jump, and then yeah, and I left and went freelance. And yeah, funny enough, like a few months later, Relentless came knocking back on the door and were like,
Full
we need you
circle.
back. Yeah, yeah. And I was like, well, it's going to be a freelance basis now anyway. So I became w twice as busy as I ever was
Right.
uh, when I was employed, and I
But I
could
mean,
charge a lot more.
it just goes to show, like, when I asked that question, you didn't feel like you were at the place to where you should be charging for mixes. By the end of the
Mm.
conversation, it's like people are coming for you. They're not even
Yeah,
saying, "Hey,
yeah.
he's
I
the
just didn't realize.
best." He's just the person we wanna work with. So, I
Mm,
think that's the biggest takeaway for me, in my opinion, is if you I'm sure there was a dozen recording engineers that were probably 10 times better than you at that time, but for some
mm,
reason, these people wanted to work with you, so it says a lot about, like, the vibe, the energy that you brought in the room, the connection that you made with the artist, and how important that is,
yeah.
as well as at the same time, you're behind the scenes trying to learn and be the best. So when you put those 2 together and they're working simultaneously, and then you're prepared, so when the opportunity comes and it's time to jump, you're ready to jump. And that's what I wanna go into
Yeah.
next is a lot of your career is taking risks. A
Mm.
lot of the stories I've heard, a lot of the reason why me and you connected in the beginning was because you ran into me at NAMM and you asked me a question, right? And it was bold. And tell me,
Yeah.
like, that boldness in just what I've known of you. I know you told me, like, you suffer from anxiety, and in these
Mm,
moments, you're anxious, but I can't tell. The person who ran up on me at NAMM
yeah.
was bold, confident, and, tell me how those risks throughout your career have paid off, and what you would tell someone who runs into these things where they see an opportunity. It might not be for them or presented to them, but it's there, and it's time for you to jump, and that fear that
Mm.
you have, how you pushed past that and how it rewarded you in the end.
So yeah, it's a very good question. There's two there's two stages to this, I think, that are clear to me. Um, and one is actually being able to see the opportunity, right? First, a lot of people don't see the opportunities they have in front of them. They're blinded by a fear, right? I think. And when you start to open up a little bit and you you start to trust in yourself and your own ability, even though you at some point you're not, you feel like the whole sort of imposter syndrome thing. But if you start to lean into it a little bit, you start to realize, okay, there is opportunity there, right, for me to grow and other things that I can do. And then that's when those doors become clear to you, like, oh, there's an opportunity there, there's an opportunity there. Like with the engineering thing, as soon as you guys announced it, it wasn't that I Mixed by Ali was like my inspiration, like one of my idols, right, as an engineer. And I was like, I just want to be known by him. I just want him to know my name, right? So that's the opportunity. But then it led on to so many other things, right? So that was the initial thing, and I'm like, I can use this platform as an opportunity to make sure he knows my name, right? And then it grew way past that, right? Because the platform itself has countless opportunities on it. It is a opportunistic platform at its core. That's what it's set up for. Meeting yourself, doing this, the Dolby course, like it's just going to NAM, like it just this is what I mean. So having the sight for the to see the opportunities is the first thing, like because if you can't see it, and I talk to so many people, like I know I've got friends of mine, and I'm like, bro, why didn't you jump on that? And they're like, didn't even really see it like that at the time. And I'm like, dude, like, and I'll sound crazy because I'm like, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. I'm
Right,
like, and they're like, bro, that that's just hearsay, And I like that, you're just daydreaming. And I'm like, bro, you think I'm daydreaming, yeah, but like, it's happened to me so many times where like
right.
I've thought that's the path, and it suddenly just like spirals into it, yeah. But then taking the jump itself is another thing where, like, as you said, like anxiety comes into it. Fear is a big thing. Like everyone suffers from fear, if you admit it or not, right? The most successful people get scared of things, especially when you get something, you get scared to lose that thing and make a
Right.
fool of yourself or whatever, right? So it's like a balance of the two for me. And I'm like, there's something inside me that the fear of not doing it overweighs the fear of just going and asking. Like I got over I got over the whole feeling knocked if someone says no to me a long time ago,
Right.
right? And I think that's something that people need to learn. Like, no is just no, right? You know, maybe it's something to do with I grew up with five brothers. We were always fighting. Do you know what I mean? I don't, it's like a flinch thing. It's like, I'm not afraid to jump in the cold water, right? Like, you just got to do it. So, and there's an excitement that comes out of that, you know? So
Right.
I get a thrill from that, right? And that's the real thing that I love. And I found out that I loved. Like, the music was just the spark. The thing that I really love is like the element of growth. And it
Right.
could really be in anything. I just want to grow things and just and I'm making it and it's coming out of me, and these situations are happening, and you know, you start to realize that that, you know, it sounds cliche, but shit, anything is possible. Do you know what I mean? Like,
100%.
I, you know, I sat there and I'm learning at Carshot College, not really knowing where my career was, but I'm watching videos on Mixed by Ali because my favorite album, right, was Good Kid, Mad City, and I was obsessed with the sound, and that's what I wanted to sound like, and I became, you know, and I was like that's who I want to be like when when I get to the point, right, and I
Right.
want that, you know, and then like fast forward a few years, you know, I'm chilling in his office. I'm speaking to him man to man. I get a tour around. Do you know what I mean? It was just unbelievable. Like, and I'm like, but you know, and at some points I feel like, oh, should I really be here? And then on the other side, I'm like, no, I worked for this. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
And imagine if you hadn't saw that opportunity to ask for that,
Mm,
you know? And tell
yeah,
me, what would you tell someone who feels like, I don't see any opportunity around me. I'm just getting started. I don't have the clientele. I don't have I might not trust my skills just quite yet just cuz no one's booking me. But
mm,
to me and you, we can see there's opportunity everywhere, but to them it just
yeah.
looks like it's not there for me. Like what would you say to that person?
Something that I do, and this is just me being kind of like analytical, right? Is I actually, if I find myself in situations like that where I'm in a rut and I don't know how to get out of it, right? I reverse engineer the goal. So I said, because you've always got a goal, yeah. Like if it's like I want to be a Grammy award winning mix engineer, right? Or you want to own the biggest, most successful music studio in the world, right? They're goals and they are achievable, right? And that is so. What I do is I reverse engineer those situations to a crazy amount of detail to the point where I'm like, if I get up at this time and I send this many messages to this many people a day, right? Like from the very grassroots beginning, right? That's the situation. So it's like, you know, and the more you do that, the more you know, you find out someone's going to take an opportunity on you eventually. Do you see what I'm saying? Like someone is going to say yes to you, and it will more than likely be on the fact that you are putting in the effort to find that opportunity, that they'll give you that opportunity, because people recognize real. You know what I mean? Real recognizes real.
100%.
So
100% agree
they'll
with you
see
on that.
they'll yeah, they'll see that and they'll be like, cool. Like this is why guys like Charlie Sloth and Jamal Edwards um took those opportunities on me. Do you know what I mean? Because they're like they saw a bit of themselves in me because of how driven I was, and I didn't want to I wasn't taking no for for an answer. So
Interesting.
like that's my sort of like idea for it. You know, it's like reverse engineer it. This is something that I've only learned recently, you know. Um, and like I write everything down now,
Mm,
everything, you know. And I'm like, and then once it's on paper, it's out of your head.
it's real.
You look at it, you're like, oh, it's okay. I actually, if I just do that today, I'm 1% closer to my goal, and then 2%. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, it all starts to build up. So that would be it. Like 110%. It's and I really stress like it's if I can do this, yeah, like anyone can do it, right? Because I am by no means the most talented. I wasn't like gifted. I wasn't gifted in music tech. I found it very hard to learn and understand how all of the tools work, like compression, EQ, things like that, to the point where I'm like, like totally overwhelmed by it. But with the just the drive and the persistence, got up every day and did it. Like, you know, I'm I'm blessed, you know what I mean? I've built a career for myself. I can support myself, and you know what I mean? And I've managed to work on some like crazy projects because of it.
I want to talk about branding. I know
Mm.
you launched a podcast called Mixed Opinions. You've branded yourself as Mixed by Jocelin. You're really big on the content. Um, Tell me
Yeah.
how, at what point, because I know you didn't just start making videos and just realize, okay, this is it. Tell me when you realized, like, okay, this is something I should do and it's helping. And what would you tell someone like, me? I'm not a social media person. I don't like to be in front of a camera. Um, is
Mm.
that the lane? Does that work?
Um, so I think there's branding for everyone on the latter part of your question, right? There's branding for everyone. If that means you getting up and trying to be the next Mr. Beast on a webcam, probably not, right? But there's a way of you marketing yourself with no matter what your personality type is, right? Like the biggest companies in the world, most of these guys, the founders aren't these like extravagant people, right? You know what I mean? Like they're not that. Most of them are far from that. So they find their own way of building those, building that awareness. So when it comes to branding, for me, it was a part of like I looked into myself and I was like, okay, what are my skill sets? What is my personality? Right? And then how can I entwine that into a brand? Right? So I'm quite loud. I don't take myself too seriously. And I do love to talk, right? So, and it's mixing, the obvious, yeah, mixed mastering, yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm entwining that into it. So if you look at the imaging that I have, it's kind of cartoonish, it's not taking itself too seriously. I'm quite loud. I chose a bold color, orange, things like that. And they seem like small little things, like trivial things that you pick, but they are really important because I know that I can lean into those graphics and that branding and that color scheme, and it's going to fit all of my content because it fits me as a person, right? So now nothing looks weird or looks forced, and I can just create to my heart's content, right? Because that's because I am that kind of person where I will get on a camera and I will express myself, but that doesn't have to be, your lane or anyone else's lane. Like they find their own unique, I call it a unique selling point. Like what's your thing that makes you unique in your field, right? And then you lean into that and you push that. Now, unfortunately, in 2024, it is kind of inevitable that you will have to be present online. Yeah, like the days of handing out flyers at festivals and stuff like that are kind of gone, right? And even like the traditional route of like working in a studio and working your way up to the top has become, a lot less accessible. You know what I mean? It
But I
wasn't
think there's more
accessible back then,
opportunity
but
now to
there's
brand
more because
yourself.
of the
Yeah.
internet. Yeah, because of the internet. So you sort of like you need to figure out what that is for you, what your unique selling point is. And as I said, I'd write everything down. I'd brainstorm my personality, which can be kind of a surreal, daunting task because it's like home therapy for yourself. But
Yeah.
like once you figure that out and you can then push that out, and you can then figure it out, and there's people out there that can help you, just like artists can't they can't mix their music, right? But they got the idea. You could take those ideas to like a graphic designer or whatever, and they can paint the picture for you. Like I was so surprised. Like I did this with a graphic designer. I just told him who I was as a person, what I did, like my personality, the colors that I like, all this stuff, and they brought me back this thing, and I was like, oh my god, that is me. That fits me, and that's so easy just to intertwine and like make work for me. And then and then building the content is obviously like a massive part of it. Like there is it's for me personally and my personal brand, like I can't do one without the other, you know, like
Mm.
I and it's almost like now I've started, I have an itch, like I have to fucking I love it. Do you know what I mean?
But
Like
what
I
point
love
did you
making
realize
videos.
like this is what I need to get into? Like I know you spent a
You
large
were
amount
there.
of I was?
You was yeah, it was at Nam. I'd sort
Really?
of like I dabbled with it a little bit. Um and I always sort of like knew that I'd like to do that, right? But there was again, just like everyone, there was the fear, right? And I was making excuses to not, right? But I kind of knew that I would be good at it and that I should do it, right? But I went to Nam, I saw all of these amazing creatives and I saw all of their stories and I found their unique selling points. And every single person was had a different perspective, you know, on how they'd done it, right? So, you know, be it Depp from, you know, billion dollar snare as he's going by now with his April Fool, and or you know, Mixed by Ali, you know, and then but one guy that sort of like resonated with me a lot was Devon from Help Me Devon, and I saw a lot of myself in him, and I was like, and I realized at that point, I was like, that's what the UK doesn't have. The UK
Mm.
don't have like a, a personality online for this culture, and it's getting, and because of guys like Devon and Wavy Wayne and guys like that, you know, Decap, like it's growing in the US. It's becoming a big thing, right? And like. And like an actual business, right? Which before it never was. It was just guys making tutorials online, right? Now they're becoming like big influencers in the space, and I'm like, I can do that in the UK. I can fill that void in the UK. That's my unique selling point. Like that is what
Interesting.
I need to do. And I remember saying to Devon, my friend Gorav from Pro Tools introduced me to him, and I said to him, I was like, bro, I'm gonna do what you're doing in the UK. And he was like, bro, I'll be keeping an eye out. Good luck. And you know, I think it was like 6, 7 months later, I got him on the show. I had like all of these crazy people on the show. Like I was again, it was like, you know, just going for it, taking the jump. Like I asked like Urko, like, bro, will you come on my show? I thought he would just ignore my message. He was like, yeah, I'm down. I've got the guy who mixed Donda coming on my show now. And I'm like, this is nuts. Like, how is any of this happening? And we're talking on a level, you know, and that builds up my confidence. I start to realize, oh, you know, this is all achievable, you know. And it's like what they say, you know, you're a consequence of the 5 people you hang around with the most. The more I spend time with these people, the more it's elevating myself, right? So the podcast was crazy for me. Like it was like putting my career on steroids,
I
right?
love
And it
that.
wasn't, you know, not even in the fact that it was doing numbers or anything, just my personal mindset
Yeah,
was
your confidence
unbelievable. Like,
too. I
yeah,
mean,
like
and you're giving
100%.
back too. I think that's the beauty of these live conversations is like you're showing people
Mm,
that like everyone doesn't have to take the same path. Like here's your path and now I can learn and be inspired from okay, I also deal with anxiety. I also deal with imposter syndrome. And
mm.
I look at you and you seem like you have it all together, but you're dealing with the same thing. So it also
Oh
just
yeah,
gives
definitely
people
not.
that just inspiration that like it might look like it's all butterflies and roses, but we're all dealing with the same thing. And it just the thing is that human element. And at the end of the day, it's about those connections and being a human and telling these stories. And I think that's
Mm,
just the beauty of having conversations like this is your
yeah,
story it might be somebody else's story, but it also might inspire someone else to be like, okay, what's my personal brand? What am I offering? How do I brand myself? And I think that's just a beautiful thing. And fear, like all of this is
yep,
stemmed from this scared kid in his room who didn't want to jump, but you jumped and every
yeah, that's
step that
it.
you jumped, it paid off. But I want
Yeah,
to talk
but
about a really cool
it gets
story.
easier.
Yeah, to
It
jump.
does get easier. Yeah, it does get easier to jump. You do start to realize the risk is worth it. Like
Yeah,
when you start to see the payoff, you know. It's
interesting.
still scary,
I'm sure.
but like it does get easier. Because I get nervous even still like doing this and I I do this near enough week in and week out, you know? So
Right.
like, yeah, it's one of those things.
No, I
But
hear
sorry,
you.
you were gonna ask a question.
Yeah, I really wanna talk about your very first, like, big label project, your big mixing
Mm,
project. Just the story behind that is so cool to me because of the imposter syndrome behind it. Everybody thought,
yeah,
you got that placement, you were already there. Tell us how you got the placement, and then when you did, how you felt.
yeah. So I was working for Charlie Sloth at the time. I was recording him, and I'd just about started to do some like paid mixing work. Um, Not for Charlie, I was just still the recording engineer, but like for other people, smaller independent artists. And then this artist called Notes came in for a recording session. We were working on an album for Charlie, and he was featuring on it. And he was sort of blowing up at the time. He had some like big traction, big and a couple of big records, and he played us this record because he wanted to show Charlie the music video um, to it, Aladdin, and I didn't really think anything of it at the time, but we had a great session and really got along with the guys. And then the next day, I get a phone call from his manager. Um, and he was like, "Oh, you see that tune that we played you? Like, would you be interested in mastering it?" Now, I have never mastered a record at this point, only for myself, and it's like I by no means knew. I wasn't a mastering engineer, like just point blank, I wasn't a mastering engineer, right? And there's a lot of mastering engineers out there that would like totally like cringe at this, yeah, because of how specialized their job is. And I don't want to take away from any of their skill set at all by saying this, yeah. But me being me and seeing the opportunity, I said, yes, I'll do it, right? And, I think I charged him like 50 quid or something, like nothing, yeah, because I didn't even know, and I was just like, yeah, cool, I'll do that. um and then they sent me the record anyway. I just eh, consumed everything I possibly could about mastering and like the principles behind it, what they would expect, the deliverables, everything. And I did sort of know at the time, but I wanted to get to a standard, and I spent a long time basically A being other records to his record to get this record where it wanted to be. But at this point, and that was just because I didn't want them to turn around and be like, it wasn't because I knew it was going to be a massive record, because I actually didn't, right? I just wanted to make sure that they didn't think I was an idiot, basically, right? Delivered it, no recalls, no nothing. They loved it, smashed it out of the park. It's like whew, moment. And then I just sort of forgot about it, right? Went on with my life. I didn't really listen to that kind of music. And I like my dad picked me up one day, and he was like playing the song in his car, and I'm like, why are you listening to this song? He's like, I'm not, it's just on the radio. And I'm like, I did this song. And it's like, oh, it's on being played on Capital. And then I look online and I'm like, shit, it's like fucking blown up. Like this has got like millions and millions of streams. Like, and yeah, it earned me a gold plaque, and the very first record I ever mastered like got me
It's
a gold
amazing.
plaque. So like, yeah, just again, I do like telling this story because it just shows you, you take the risks and they do pay off, So
100.
yeah, and yeah, still couldn't believe it. And I still work with him today, so it's great. Like we're talking about working on a new project like
I
within the
love
next week
that.
or so.
Love
So
that
yeah,
story.
yeah.
Anybody that
Me-
just joined in the middle. We got Mixed by Jocelyn here. We got a few more minutes left. You guys have any questions? Drop them in the chat. Anything related to marketing, branding, fear, imposter syndrome, taking risks. He is your man to answer your questions. So drop them in the chat while I really want to ask you, what would you tell someone who is 16-year-old Jocelyn? What would you tell him? Just
Mm.
beginning, they're not social media savvy, they're still mixing in their bedroom. What advice would you give that person?
I would say to him to have faith in to who he is, right? And because I believe I had an understanding of who I was even back then, but I would let myself get in the way of that, right? And to put your best self forward every time, even if you don't think it's the right thing to do. So I 16-year-old me, I would 110% be getting a camera. I would be making videos, and like, because I realize the first one's always gonna be like shit, like, but you just got to start making it. You just got to start doing it. Like that was one thing consistent with my career. I would make a song and I would just put it out, right? Even if I thought it was bad or not, right? So, but if I had taken that attitude further with when I got, because you get into career and you start to see money and stuff like that, and then other influences get in your way. So that's the main thing. Like, have faith in your own gut. Yeah, because people will try to tell you don't do this, or maybe you shouldn't do that, or that's kind of cringe. Yeah. Like I
Yeah,
love her to pieces, but like my fiance, yeah, love her to pieces. And but she thought when I first started making videos, she thought they were so cringy, and she was like, I really don't like it. Like, don't show me them. Right. But now it's like my whole thing. Yeah. Like,
that's
and
funny.
it's sort of like paying the bills, right? So like I don't, so that's it. Like, because even if they care and they love about you, but it's you are the only person that really understands you and knows what's best for you. So just follow your gut and just keep pushing forward because it will pay off if you are true to yourself. And I genuinely do believe that.
I love that. We got a question in the chat for you. Modus
Mm.
Flow wants to know. He says, "Hi, Jocelyn. Thanks for sharing with us." His question is, "What's the best investment you've ever made that played a role into your career success today?"
The best investment I ever made. Oh, that is
It's
a
a great
crazy
question.
question. Yeah, that is a really good question. Um, I would say it was probably my microphone that I bought when I was like 17, this Sontronics microphone. I can't remember. I think it was like a ST something. But yeah, that and then more recently 110% this GoPro because enables me to capture everything that I want to capture. So yeah, just the microphone because it set my career off and it allowed me to start recording my buddies and my friends and bringing value to people. And then the camera because it allows me to bring value to even more people. So yeah.
Love that. And I was going to ask you, um, you made 2 points earlier that you have to be able to see an opportunity, and most people don't get to see an opportunity. Tell
Mm.
me, a lot of these people in the call that are going to see this video, they're audio engineers, they're on our platform. They might be in a different place in their career than you might be. But tell me what opportunity that you would see in engineers that they might not see, and how you, before you got on here and before you utilized it and took advantage of all the opportunities. Tell me what you see that someone else might not see.
Um, so obviously, with platforms like engineers themselves, like it's a network that didn't exist when I first started. It wasn't there. It was a simple case. Like I said, I had to buy a microphone and just like give free recording sessions and whatever. Now you have a space that you can professionally like promote yourself on. So it's like optimizing things like that, taking those situations and just really making the most of it. Like they'll tell you this. Mehet will tell you the story when I got on there. Like I fucking made sure that I was on there. You know what I mean? Like I went for it. And just to really and it was purely just to optimize myself on
You
that
did.
particular
You
platform.
set up
Yeah,
calls with me immediately. We walked through all your
yeah,
profile. We got you set up. Like, you really made sure, like, is
that's
there
it.
anything that I don't know about this platform? Because I need to learn it. And you took every opportunity. And I mean, that's how me and you got to know each other. Is you would just like teach
Yeah,
me everything I
exactly.
need to know to be successful on this thing. And you were, and you learned it.
That's it. And I think some people they don't see those things as an opportunity, like actually reaching out to people and asking the questions. Like I think there was one silly thing where I was like, oh, the the recall system on engineers, when it spits it back to me, it's all one big block. I'm massively dyslexic. I can't read a massive block of text. Like, is there any way of like them when the artist puts it in of being able to translate it into bullet points? And you guys were like, yeah, 100%, and you worked on it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, which helps me. So
Right.
it's like those are the sort of things. It's like nowadays in society, everything is, with the internet and social media and platforms like Engineers, everything is set up to communicate instantly, right? So, and that has its downfalls because it then becomes, it actually sometimes can become harder to be seen, but you have the opportunities to be seen in the best light. So just like what I said at the beginning, finding out your unique selling point, branding yourself, and then putting yourself on these sites consistently, making it look consistent is really important as well. Like the same sort of vibe on every site through your personal brand. You are going to float to the top because most people, 99% of people are going to neglect that because they don't see it as important. They sign up to the site and they just hope the money rolls in. Never going to work. So you need to put find your unique selling point, brand yourself, put your best foot forward, and display yourselves in the best way on all of these sites. And that's when the opportunities will come. So that would be my like best advice. But it's if you don't do that, you know what I mean. Like you're selling yourself short.
I love that. Tell me what your just random question, favorite plugin.
Okay.
What's your
My favorite
go-to
plugin.
favorite plugin?
At the moment, just because I feel like it's just like a big lifesaver. There's a lot, so it's very hard to say one. But I'm gonna say God Particle just because it's like just a G'd up plugin, and I am throwing it on everything. And then probably like an honorary second is Soothe too.
Nice.
So, but yeah,
Nice.
just plugins that make my life easy.
Love that. No worries. And
Yeah.
then what's your favorite feature on the platform?
Favorite feature on the platform. It's definitely the recall uh thing and like how like you can talk through it and it's like you can A B the different recalls. That was like the thing that like really sort of drew me to it when I first saw like, oh, okay, this is more than just like like a fiver or something like that. This is like, we can get in detail and it takes all of that headache because the one thing that I hate, and my clients know this, they'll laugh if they're watching this. If you message me or voice note me, I'm not going to listen to that. Like, so it being on the site, right? And because that's just how my brain works, right? And it's there, and they can AB it, and we can all communicate, and there's a whole, and it's all there in black and white, the whole history of it. That just makes life so much easier. And it keeps. I think it solves a lot of issues before they come up as well. Having that there, do you know what I mean? It stops people from like, oh, they're listening to the wrong mix, or do you know what I mean? Because they can't not listen to the right mix at that point.
Right. No, it's a great feature. It's
Mm.
definitely one of the favorites. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Last thing I want to ask you, if anybody else in the chat has any more questions for Jocelyn, for sure drop them before we wrap. But I wanted to ask you, is there any practical tools that you would tell someone? I know social media, graphic designing, the videos that you make are a big part of your brand in the way you
Mm.
built your brand as well. That might be overwhelming to someone like me who's like, I don't know any of that stuff. I don't want to touch it, but I see how it's benefited your career. I see it every day on my
Yeah.
feed. What would you tell someone like me who's like, I see the value, I just don't know where to start?
Learn two tools, two apps. They're free. Most people will know about them, but Canva and CapCut, that's they are. If you get your head around them and you become like pros in those tools, like branding and creating content, it just becomes a million times easier. Even if it's like not even if you're not making videos and stuff like that, you can create like visuals and things that lean into that strength of yours because you don't want to communicate online. So Canva, things like that, like that's how you can like display your brand and display your personality. So yeah, I use those. I love those tools. And then just like spend time on YouTube and actually like learn it because there's a science to this. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not just like, oh, a God-given thing that people just come online and they know how to promote themselves. Like there's a learning curve to this, just like anything, just like learning how to use Pro Tools or Logic.
Do
So
you think you have to do it, like the social media, in the camera, that whole thing? Do you think that that's the mandatory for the time that we're in, or do you think that it's still possible to be a successful audio engineer without having your face in front of a camera and without having to make content?
I Not at all. No, I think it definitely helps because it gives you an edge on it. But if you are talented and you put the effort into finding the clients, right, and promoting yourself in your own way, you definitely still can be a great audio engineer. And like, there's situations that happen all the time, just like, Mixed by Ali, where he was just like recording his friends and ended up his friends being super talented, and they all came together and created this thing that like everyone was boosting up each other. Do you know what I mean? So like there's still situations like that, and I've had certain situations like that where I've grown with artists. But um I definitely think it helps. I definitely think you should give it a go because you know um it's to me it's just a tool. It's just a tool that if you're not using it, you're not benefiting from it.
Right.
So it's like I could probably still run my business without being socially present, but like I I can, so I should, right?
Right. And it's
So
it's
that
helping, it's accelerating
yeah,
it,
yeah.
I feel like. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
there
of
is for
course.
sure a lane for people who don't want to be in front of a camera. But like you said, I
Yeah,
think
I mean, me personally as well, like I believe that I believe that maybe this is something that I should be doing because of my personality, right? So like if that sounds like vain or egotistical, but like I believe that I can help people by doing this. So that's why I want to do it, right? That has nothing to do with promoting my business. It's like
mm,
I make the YouTube videos. I'm sort of selling myself short. I'm teaching other engineers how to steal work from me basically. But I love that, right? And I think that's important and should be done in a way that's unique and fun. So that's what I'm trying to do. So,
love
but
that.
all of you other engineers, that's what I'm saying. It's about finding your unique selling point. Like, what is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you're good at? Your personal sort of lane, and then lean into it. So I've got friends, two of my buddies here. Two of the most successful engineers in the UK. They would never get in front of the camera ever, right? They're like my age as well, and but they're killing it. Because they found their own unique selling point, their own path. So
I love
I definitely
that.
don't think it's important, but I do think it helps.
So find your unique selling point. That's the takeaway. Find it, lean
Yeah,
into it, be consistent.
and brand it.
And brand
Yeah,
it
and
and be
brand it.
consistent once you've done that. So
Mm.
I think that was all great points. Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for taking the time
Thank
today
you.
to give all this free game back to the community. For anybody that's listening, you guys can go follow Mixed by Jocelyn on socials. He's in the community. Feel free to talk to him, check out his
Yeah, chat.
profile.
Hit me up if you got any questions on anything related to branding, mixing. I'm always chatting in the DMs, so please feel free.
100%. We appreciate you guys. Thank y'all for being here. Till next week with another guest. Jocelyn, I know it's late over there, so thank you for making the time.
Fine.
Appreciate you. Of
Yeah, shout out to you, shout out to engineers, and yeah, catch you guys soon.
course, always. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here.